Hey, so a few weeks ago, I picked up a truckload of 100-year-old cedar barn beams with the intention of building a retaining wall. I just needed a retaining wall, so I got the logs. But once I got them, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could build some cool shit with this stuff. So my first project is going to be to build a stand-up paddleboard, an 11-foot, 4-inch San Marcos style board. And we're going to start with this beam right here. So first step is to mill the board into planks, and then we'll figure out what the next step is from there. All right, let's do this together. All right, so what I've got now is I've got about a 10-inch by 10-inch board, and what I'm going to do next is cut it into 1.5-inch thicknesses, okay? Because when I lay out the strips for the stand-up paddleboard, I'm going to be using 1.5-inch strips. So I'm going to mill this into 1.5-inch depths, and then I'll rip those 1.5-inch boards with the table saw to put the strips down. It all makes sense when you see the next steps. All right, well, so let's get this milled into the 1.5 inchers. All right, so I was able to mill 5 full-size boards. So they're about 10 inches wide, 1 3/4 inches thick. I went with 1 3/4 inches on the mill because I'm going to take it down to 1.5 on the planer inside. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the quality of the wood. Sure, there's a few wormholes. There's a little bit of rot in one of the boards, but I bet I'm going to be able to use at least 80% of this lumber. So we'll have to see, but there might almost be enough for 2 paddle boards in this lot. So we'll see what happens. So let's move all this stuff down to the ark, and I'll just let it dry out a little bit, and then I'll get on the planer, and we'll go from there. All right, let's go. All right, so it's a rainy day, which is good. So I'm indoors in my workshop, and the plan for today is to plane these boards that I milled to 1 3/4 inches thick to 1.5 inches thick. And what that'll do is 2 things. 1, we'll get it down to that 1.5 inches that I wanted. But 2, when I cut the strips into the 3/8 or 1/4 thickness, that'll mean by planing the boards like I am now, we'll have very clean edges so that hopefully they'll butt together nicely. So anyways, I've got to mill off 1/4 inch on each of these boards, and then I'll be ready to rip them with the table saw. All right, so I got the wood all planed, and a couple takeaways is 1, I'm impressed with my sawmill because all of my boards were the same thickness from side to side and end to end. So the mill's cutting really straight. So that was cool. I was happy to see that. The second is the cedar's pretty good. It's I'll show you. Just here. I'll switch the camera around. So for the most part, it's quite clear. Cedar's there's a few knots here and there, but we got to remember that I'm going to be like milling these down into 1/4 thicknesses. So of course the edge I won't be able to use, but when you're talking about 1/4 thicknesses, I'm going to be able to get a lot of strips out of this. Another thing I wanted to show you though, because I just have a small shop, is my vacuum system. So I've got this cyclone lid, and it just fits on any old garbage can, and you just hook one hose up to a shop vac and the other hose up to your planer or joiner or whatever. And what happens is all the shavings go into this garbage bin instead of your shop vac. So that means you don't have to be emptying your shop vac every 3 or 4 passes of the board. Anyway, so the next job, I think I'm going to probably joiner it and just make sure the edges are straight, and then we'll rip a few boards into those 1/4 inch thicknesses. All right, so here's what happened since the last time we met. I got all the boards planed down to the dimensions I wanted, and then I ran one of the boards through the table saw to get it down to that 3/8 thickness that I wanted. But it was hard to get through the table saw. I got a new blade and everything, but it took a long time. And what I was thinking is that because we're off grid, it's going to use a lot of power because I'm going to have to create, I don't know, maybe 100 strips, right? So that's a lot of passes through that table saw. That's a lot of power used. So what I've decided to do instead is, because I'm really confident in the precision of my sawmill, I'm going to rip I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to just rip all 5 boards at once to a 3/8 thickness. And because I'm using a table saw blade or a wood mill blade, it's going to be a bit of a rough cut. And then because it's going to be 3/8 inch, then I can take it down to the planer and just run those little strips through the planer. I'll just take 1/16 off each side, which will get me down to the 1/4 thickness that I want, and it'll give me a perfect strip for making this SUP. All right, so let's get this all ripped up. We'll see how many strips I end up with. All right, so here we have it. It's very consistent with the cut. I've got my calipers, so I can measure. This one I think I made a little bit thick, but that's okay because I could fix that with the planer. But yeah, this one here, that one here, yeah, it's close to a 1/2 inch. But yeah, so I know for next time not to ratchet it down quite as far. But yeah, I like this. This is working well. It's gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna get these ripped, like probably literally, like, just because I'm doing 5 at once instead of 1 at a time, so it's 5 times faster, and then I'm pushing it through probably twice as fast. So this is like going 10 times faster than using the table saw. All right, so that went well. It took me yeah, about an hour to get 80 strips cut. They're all super uniform. They're good to go. Well, I need to plane them, but yeah, I think that was a much better idea than going with the table saw. It's a hot day here, and I went for a run this morning, and I'm feeling a little bit dizzy and lightheaded, so I think I might take a little bit of a break. All right, I guess I'll see you next at the planer, and we'll get these down to that 1/4 inch thickness that we want. All right, see you there. All right, so I've already planed a bunch of the boards, and again, I'm really impressed with the consistency of the Woodland Mills sawmill. All the boards that I planed, they were 3/8. You know, those perfect 3/8. All I had to do was, there's this dial on the planer, and every time you turn around one crank, it's 1/16. So I did 1/16 on one side, 1/16 on the other side, and boom. Now I've got all these 1/4 inch boards here that are strips that are gonna be ready for installing onto the skeleton whenever that arrives. All right, so I've done a few things now. I've got all of the cedar strips planed. There they are there, and ready to go. But I did something else. I also went out and I cut down a small black cherry tree, and I milled those into strips. And then I also had some red cedar planks right here that I also milled into planks. And so what I'm hoping to do is just be able to break up more of the, I don't know if this is white cedar, but just sort of have a little bit more of a different color pattern across the board. The other thing I did is once I milled all the boards, I put them out on the deck, and I just left them in the sun for a day or two to make sure that they're nice and dry. So I think that we're going to wrap up this video here. I now have all my rough material ready for the skins. Now I just have to wait for the stand-up paddleboard skeleton to come in. And the next video, I'll go over how to put that together and how to apply the skins. All right, we'll see you on that one. Okay, bye-bye.